contribute to these measures. So this is our focus this morning. With no further ado, I hand the floor to the moderator, Madam Noelene Nabulivou, with Development Alternatives with Women for the New Era, also known as DAWN, and she will introduce all the panelists, who are many. So, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Distinguished Chair, the Vice President of ECOSOC, panelists, esteemed state delegates, major groups, civil society, and there's friends from social movements and other stakeholders. It's a real pleasure to moderate this important session, I think, today on implementation and reviewing progress of Rio+20, and as we said, with a view to two things, both to spurring action but also ensuring accountability. And I've been asked to make a few preliminary remarks myself just to set the scene for our discussion, so I'll be very brief. But I think it's really important for us to first recall that this move to the high-level political forum is about the strengthening of the institutional framework for sustainable development, and it was one of the two main themes of the Rio+20 UN Conference on Sustainable Development. Because what was realized was that in order to realize the ambitious agreements on sustainable development, the architecture itself of sustainable development governance and accountability had to be improved. And so, as we know, on July 9th, 2013, the UN General Assembly came out with Resolution 67-90 that laid out the architecture, the vision, and the placement of the high-level political forum within the broader UN institutional framework, but it also talked about its role in both monitoring and review and the means and methods for engaging major groups and other stakeholders. And one of the things that I think we should talk about is it's timely to recall that the high-level political forum isn't just a review mechanism, although that's a critical role of it. Because what it says in the text is that it's to provide both strong and articulate political leadership and guidance for sustainable development. So that means that in these crucial first periods of development of the HLPF, we have to get the structures, the processes, and the focus right so that the review mechanisms themselves will be effective and useful. We also recall that there are other specific mechanisms that also come out of Rio+20 outcome documents, so it's imperative that the high-level political forum often also works out how it will accurately and fully reflect these processes as well within its work. So I speak, of course, of the SIDS track, including the third global conference coming up, very dear to my heart, in Samoa, and also the 10-year framework on sustainable consumption and production. And of course, there's the ongoing work of the open working groups toward clear and useful sustainable development goals. So accordingly, whatever the goals that are coming out of the sustainable development process is still in the final stages of negotiation, including this month. The HLPF will be responsible for providing both political leadership and guidance and following up and review. But also, it is about enhancing integration of the three dimensions of sustainable development in a holistic and cross-sectoral manner. This comes directly out of the future we want. So the last thing I'll talk about is that in terms of what these monitoring and accountability mechanisms might look like, we can look both to the Universal Periodic Review process of the Human Rights Council, the annual ministerial review process of ECOSOC, and as one commentator said recently, this hybrid nature of the high-level political forum may lend itself to a new formulation of review and monitoring processes that combine both the universality and multilateral quality of the General Assembly and the convening power and experience of ECOSOC. We've heard a lot about progress this week on that, and we look forward to more of that discussion this morning. So this morning, we convene to hear from a distinguished set of panelists and discussants. So first, we'll hear a presentation on international and local best practices of monitoring, review, and accountability mechanisms. We'll then move into an interactive debate, and if you look at your program, you'll see there's a long list of speakers until about 9:20, if we can, please. And then we hope, if we have time, to open the floor for about 15 minutes until 9:35 for general contributions. We'll try to close the session. We have to close the session by 9:45, as we have to ready ourselves for the session next next door. And the reason why I'm going on about this is we really want to have time for interactive discussion, so I'd ask you please to engage fully with each other, to articulate the complexities, the challenges, and the possibilities, and provide forward-looking concrete recommendations. But please take note of the timekeepers that I know are assisting us today in the front here. We've got a wave from there. So without further ado, I'll introduce Mariam Beshen, who is a senior researcher at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs. She'll be speaking on international and local best practices in monitoring, reviewing, and accountability mechanisms. Thanks, Mariam.